All right, how's it going, you beautiful people? How can I tell you beautiful? Well, I can see you through the internet. No, I can't. I'm just making assumptions. Today is Today in Art number 17, I believe. It is number 17. Today is February 17th, 2009. What is this? This is Today in Art podcast. Why am I doing it? Well, basically, I am an artist myself, and I figured the best way to stay in the know is to research current fine art going on in the world. And I can make a little podcast, put it out there to the world, and if you're interested yourself about what's going on, you can either watch on YouTube or listen to the audio version on Anchor. And of course, Anchor shoots out to various podcasts, like I think it's like Google Podcasts and like Pocket Casts and Spotify and all that good stuff. So with that being said, let's get into this. So here we go. This is on, what is this on? ArtNet News. Okay. A major victory. Artists react to Amazon's decision to drop plans to establish a New York City campus. In the face of opposition from local politicians and community activists, the online retail giant scrapped plans to move to New York. So basically, Amazon, which may be one of, I don't know if it's the biggest company in the U.S. or it's one of the biggest companies. Because I think Jeff Bezos, the owner, just surpassed Bill Gates and Warren Buffett to be like the richest man in the world. I know Amazon bought up the Washington Post, and they also bought up Whole Foods recently as well. And they were basically planning on, they did like a big nationwide search. I think like 200 cities was trying to like get them to come there. I think Columbus actually was, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I think Columbus is actually one I'm trying to convince them to move here as well. They settled between, they're going to split it between, it was New York City, and I think there's one in, was it Virginia, maybe? There's another one. And they basically, New York had gotten them to get there with like certain, tax abatements. It was like $3 billion. It's going to take them the course of over the course of 15 years or something like that. But where they were going to put it at, it was in the Queens neighborhood in Long Island City. It's going to bring them like 25,000 jobs to the area. Let's see. And of course, I mean, that, I guess some people are complaining that like it would have brought in people instead of necessarily giving it to just New Yorkers, but let's get into this. It's saying activists protest against Amazon's move to Long Island City. Then how Amazon has like the smiley face on their boxes. They have one with like a frowny face. So, it's kind of funny, but whatever. In the face of strong opposition from local politicians and community groups, the online retail giant Amazon dropped its plans to open a sprawling campus in the Queens neighborhood of Long Island City. The move would have affected scores of artists with studios in the area and numerous cultural institutions based in LIC, and drew enthusiasm as well as protests. Well, if you bring people into the neighborhood, that's going to bring an influx of, I guess it will disperse like lower income people, but it will also bring jobs and money into it. And then from what I experienced, the bigger cities are, New York obviously is big before even Amazon comes in, but the bigger cities with more jobs, more people, more money, usually those have the more art sales. That's why kind of New York and Los Angeles are bigger art communities. But yeah, we'll get into this. According to New York Times, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio courted the retailer with a lucrative subsidies package in a deal that promised to create more than 25,000 jobs. Despite support from the company, critics voiced concerns ranging from Amazon's anti-union labor practices to the prospects of gentrification. But also Amazon as a whole, like across the company, like just last year, raised their starting pay to $15 an hour. I don't know if it's the whole state of New York or New York City, like they just raised their minimum wage to 15. It was like 13 or 13.50. And now they're having a huge problem with, I think one article was talking about like the restaurants, like if they have to pay all their employees or at least all the entry-level employees more, of course they have to raise the prices on their food to offset that. Then there's people that I guess get like lunch daily at restaurants, and they're saying that like it's getting too pricey for them. And if they do that, cause the restaurants are trying to, I'm getting off topic, but the restaurants are trying to make it where they're like covering the cost of the mandatory, minimum wage, but without trying to lose customers, because raising it's going to they're going to end up like losing customers. They tried this in Seattle too, where they raised the minimum wage and it had like a huge backlash. Like all these restaurants and everything were like closing. Like when you raise the minimum wage, that's not good. I don't care what people say. That's, especially to 15 an hour, that's not good. It's like it's minimum wage for minimum work. I don't care what people say. Get a better job. Get better skills. So anyway, one prominent critic, State Senator Michael Ganaris, I guess, told the Times that Amazon's decision to withdraw from the deal revealed its unwillingness to properly engage with the Queens community. Well, no, y'all offered them something to get them there. Then certain people, politician stuff, kind of threw like a hissy fit about it. I think even Alexandria Ocasio, no, what's her name? How do you say that? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There we go. I always mix it up. Like she was saying, like, oh, that's $3 billion that we could have put towards subways and teachers. Like, it's a tax abatement. It's not just $3 million that you're giving to them. It's like if they had originally like $10 billion in taxes they would have paid, they would have just paid $7. So instead of like not getting that, you're not getting anything. I don't think she understands basic economics or taxes. Alongside community groups, artists and art workers have been among the prominent critics of Amazon's potential effects on the neighborhood. A group calling itself Bad Barcode, consisting of New York cultural workers against Amazon, put out a 50-page dossier gathering research on the company's practices. The Artist Studio Affordability Project, ASAP, a group that advocates for artists, have put out a pledge encouraging artists not to work with Amazon, stating, what's bad for the community of LIC, the working poor, and the working class is also bad for artists. Especially over the recent years, I'm having this kind of issue with these artists, these, working poor. Like, I mean, I can understand having to put in the hours to create art. I totally understand that. But this idea that you're idealizing, like, the poor working class and that's what they're supposed... It's a weird thing, but it kind of goes in with the whole leftist, super liberal, kind of like upcoming, like, democratic socialist, kind of like total uninformed fucking bullshit. This whole emotional outrage over like actual, factual statistical data backing up, what's good and what's not. It's weird. They got like a little kind of package label print off thing. It says $50,000 USD tax subsidy per job billed to taxpayers as a tax abatement. So, yeah. The workers' community, Long Island City, New York. Corporate welfare costs $3 billion USD. Well, the thing is, you're not getting any of it now. So, I think $7 billion is better than no billion, because they really need to. Because New York's having an issue, from what I think it was. I can't remember if it was Andrew Cuomo or Bill de Blasio. One of them was saying like they hope, like they're talking about raising, like they didn't want to raise the taxes anymore because they're afraid of like the super rich like leaving New York, because without them they're paying like a huge amount of like the taxes that kind of like subsidize all these programs, and supposedly their infrastructure, like the subway, all that stuff is like it's like crumbling, it's barely working. And there was certain, I think it was the L train perhaps, is like going from one area across the river to the other one, and it's like in a terrible state, and they're talking about like having to close it to repair it and fix it. But then like all these people are freaking out because it's like they're having people like work on one side of the river, and that's their main way to get the other to like work. So there's a big issue with that. Let's get into this. Artist William Pahida, I don't know, who keeps a studio in Long Island City and has worked with ASAP, hailed Amazon's withdrawal. See, I'm starting to have a real issue with this whole artists that are like, I mean, they can say what they want to, but me personally, like, all these artists being super like socialist, and I get a lot of them do it, like socialist against the man, against the corporation. Like, well, without them, you don't have jobs. You can possibly not have jobs or money, and it's hard to understand. Like, I don't know if they're just like incredibly naive to what I guess the real world is. I don't know. We'll see. I am elated the grassroots local activism from a broad array of organizations in Queens and throughout the city led Amazon to pull out the secret deal. It wasn't secret, it was very public. Made by Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio to bypass democratic processes in New York City. No, it's a program they kind of offered them to get them there because it should be such a positive thing for the city. He told ArtNet News in an email, "It is a major victory for democracy and has put the needs of New Yorkers in the national spotlight, from affordable housing to public transportation to quality education to labor rights." Artist and anti-Amazon activist Kenneth Petrobono also welcomed the news, calling for more diligence in the future. If there is anything to learn from this, it is the weakness of our existing checks and balances to provide an actual public process, he told ArtNet News in an email. As long as groups like Empire State Development Corporation retain the power to create these kinds of debts and incentives without oversight or public review, this will happen again. I think, because another issue was the whole gentrification thing. Which I guess if you're paying cheap, obviously you don't want to pay more. But if it brings in more money and more people, I think they don't understand too that you can cut taxes and still increase tax revenue. That if people are paying less taxes, they have more money in their pocket and they can spend it how they see fit. They can spend more of their actual money in the community how they want to, instead of giving it to the government and have them spend it on like kind of useless programs. So, Nate Rowe, director of Flux Factory, a nonprofit that supports emerging artists, said, "Also look to the future. It's inspiring to witness effective activism and politicians who get their constituents. But before all this Amazon drama, LIC was already the fastest growing neighborhood in the U.S., so long-term fight against displacement persists. various Queens institutions, including the Sculpture Center, the Noguchi Museum, and the Socrates Sculpture Park, declined to comment on Amazon's decision not to move its offices to Long Island City. So there's a chance they, like actual organizations, realize that, yeah, more jobs, more people, more income is a good thing. But since they're serving these artists, these grassroots artists that, I don't know. I mean, they're not, but to me, they almost seem like spoiled children. But there's another thing that they had about this earlier in November is another article where they talked to some of these other companies, like when it was like proposed that they may be coming in. So we'll go over this as well. So this may be a little bit on the longer side, but we'll see. How will Amazon's new headquarters affect the Queens art scene? We asked the optimistic, jittery, outraged locals. Some art centers welcome the corporation's arrival, while others fear exorbitant rents and hyper-gentrification. And this was in November 2018 when this one came out. There goes the neighborhood. That's what many onlookers and New York locals thought when news broke that behemoth Amazon was set up half its headquarters in Long Island City, Queens. The other half is located in Crystal City, Virginia. So the other one was Virginia, and I believe they're still going on. They're still planning on doing the Virginia one as planned. But how do the many artists and vibrant institutions suited there, including Sculpture Center, MoMA PS1, and Flux Factory, feel about the tech giant's arrival? We reached out to several Queens institutions for their take on the move. Some are excited about the potential influx of cash, corporate sponsorship, and wealthy patrons to the area, but others are skeptical or outright critical of the transformation Amazon may bring, including exorbitant rent hikes and hyper-gentrification. The Amazon news has raised the visibility of Long Island City to another level, said Mary Cerruti, chief curator and longtime executive director of Sculpture Center. She will leave her post just as Amazon gets ready to arrive, having taken a top job at Walker Arts Center in Minneapolis. We will see increase in attendance? Will we see increased attendance? We will certainly reach out, and I hope some of the employees will venture off their campus to explore places like Sculpture City. I mean, they're bringing in 25 to up to 40,000 jobs in there. And of course, if they're making, decent money, starting at $15 an hour, which I know the cost in New York City is higher, but I mean, you're going to go out and do stuff, and you may possibly, you got a little bit extra cash. You may buy some art if it's affordable. So, yeah. Others were equally cautiously optimistic. The creative community of Long Island was cited as a significant factor in Amazon's decision to bring their company here, said Katie Denny Horowitz, a spokesperson for Socrates Sculpture Park, the waterfront park that hosts a dynamic year-round roster of outdoor sculpture projects and installations. We look forward to working together with Amazon, our community leaders, and elected officials, as well as the Long City Island residents. We serve to ensure our park and cultural programs remain substantial and vibrant as changes occur in the neighborhood. The park, which sits on the edge of Long Island City near the border with Astoria, is a founding member of the Long Island City Cultural Alliance. MoMA PS1, which became an affiliate of Manhattan's Museum of Modern Art in 2000, declined to comment in light of the fact that it is currently without a director. The former leader, Klaus Beinsteinbach, recently moved to LA to take the helm of MoCA and is still absorbing the news. The Noguchi Museum and the Queens Museum of Art also declined or did not respond to a request for comment. That makes me believe that they are probably positive about the news, but they understand how it may look to some people, so they don't really want to comment. It's this thing, too, with kind of if you want to do like the left to the right, the liberals, conservatives, like a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people are like center too, whether they like center leaning left or center leaning right. A lot of people kind of in the middle don't really want to say anything because they don't have like intense emotions like the far left and like the far right. So, yeah. Less than optimistic. Some cultural figures, on the other hand, were frank in expressing their concerns about the potential changes looming. Asked how he thinks Amazon's move to the factory will affect art institutions, Flux Factory Executive Director Nate Rowe responds unequally. Flux has been a renter for 25 years, he says, and our ability to provide affordable space to our artists and residents depends on our ability to secure affordable space. Small nonprofits like Flux are in a tenuous position already, and there are quite a few of our peers in Long Island City who are at heightened risk because of Amazon's move. Those who own their spaces, not such a scary problem. Although certainly the public that we all serve will change demographically, so it is for organizations just as it is for individuals. An example par excellence of American-style oligarchy, in which the rich get socialist tax breaks and the poor get capitalistic rent hikes. So I'm kind of wondering if you've been there for like 25 years. But then again, if you are a nonprofit, maybe you can't own it. But it's still weird if you're like renting for 25 years instead of buying it. Seems a little weird. I don't know. Rose says he has been hearing suggestions that Amazon should support local artists by offering free or affordable space or by hiring them for projects, but he's not warming to the idea. Personally, I'd rather not accept checks from Amazon or visit some Amazon gallery. Experimental, what was that? Some marketing scheme. Amazon should just pay their taxes and let New York State Council on the Arts and the Department of Cultural Affairs keep doing the excellent work they do. How about they do pay their taxes and you don't get... How about like art programs not have to rely on taxes and be self-sufficient? So the ones that are actually good at what they do rise above instead of relying on taking money from people. How about that? Despite her optimism, Cerruti of the Sculpture Center is fully aware of the concerns voiced by the surrounding community. There is an outcry about the scale of this project, the huge tax break being given, and the lack of infrastructure to support the existing development already well underway in Long Island City. She says there is no confidence or evidence that the city will make necessary investments into the community to address affordability, lack of sufficient transit, or schools. Dollar signs in the eyes. For-profit businesses are understandably more enthusiastic about the Amazon news. I wonder why. These include art storage and transport company Uvo, I don't know, which built its 280,000 plus square foot flagship facility from the ground up in Long Island City in December 2014. We are energized by the announcement, but not surprised. Uvo CEO Steve Nonstein told ArtNet News. Like Amazon, we did tons of research before choosing Long Island City for our flagship facility and came to the conclusion it is one of the most convenient, dynamic neighborhoods in New York City. Hopefully, all the attention will translate into a heightened awareness of the world-class museums and art institutions located here. We are also excited about the planned parks and the possibility of new public art installations. Asked if Uvo plans to reach out to Amazon executives and leaders, Novestein said that since he's on the board of the Long Island City Business Improvement District, we are always engaging with our corporate neighbors to contribute to the area. Together, we support charitable causes, public art initiatives, and neighborhood projects like adding trees, flower beds, lighting, you name it. We would definitely reach out to Amazon, and I am confident they will join us in investing in Long Island City. So that's the older one. So, I mean, it's New York City. I guess the people, like, especially, Long Island City, the Queens neighborhood. I mean, if they don't want it, it's not going to go. But I also seen that like it was like 54% of New Yorkers like wanted Amazon to come in to bring jobs in the area. But there's always this like small, select, like loud group, especially you see it on Twitter now too. Like there's like a few people that are like super loud to like try to change stuff, but I don't know. What do you think about it? I think it's a little, I mean, they're talking about Google came in and didn't get any certain tax breaks from what some people were saying. But then again, this is what kind of like New York offered them from what I understand. And then they got admit, like they chose them because of that. And then they got in there and like all these like certain politicians and stuff like and activists like started like bashing them about it. So they're like, okay, we'll just like not bring you jobs and money then. So I don't know. Tell me what you think, I guess. Like I said, this is Today in Art. This was February 17th, 2019. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you want to subscribe and all that good stuff and like it, that's great. You can leave me a comment asking any questions, or if you have any certain articles that you want me to look at, I can do that. Same with on Anchor. I believe you can leave, well, I don't know how. If you directly go to Anchor, you may be able to comment, but it pushes out to other platforms, so I'm not sure how that. Well, you know, I have like all the descriptions links, so you can follow me like on Instagram and Twitter. Probably Twitter. If you want to ask a question or a certain article, any of that good stuff. But yeah. I think this one's a little bit on the longer end. It's getting closer to 30 minutes, so yeah. Also, I got still not sure about Patreon. Or even PayPal now. I may look into Subscribestar if you want to support and all that good stuff. I do have a Teespring and all that stuff. So, give me a little 20 seconds here to put some playlists and all this good stuff. But, all right, I will see you next time. I may start doing, well, it depends how much research I want to put in these two. Because I kind of did like a little bit more research on this one than I had with the other ones. But yeah. All right. I'll catch you guys later. Crap. All right. Bye.